Welcome to my channel, Global Scope. Subscribe to my channel for news updates all around the world. In a landmark decision that is already sending shockwaves through Washington and beyond, the Supreme Court has struck down the Trump-era tariffs, a move that is being hailed as one of the most significant rulings on presidential power in recent years. The decision sharply limits the president's ability to unilaterally set trade policy, curbing the executive branch's reach and reinforcing the system of checks and balances at the heart of American democracy. The justices found that invoking national security as a broad justification for sweeping tariffs went far beyond the authority that Congress originally granted to the executive branch, emphasizing that such powers must be used with clear and specific intent. This decision reasserts Congress's constitutional role in regulating foreign commerce, reminding lawmakers and the public alike that the power to shape America's trade relationships ultimately lies with the legislative branch. By drawing a clear line against unchecked executive action, the court has sent a strong message about the limits of presidential authority, especially when it comes to matters that impact the entire economy. The ruling effectively dismantles a key part of former President Trump's economic agenda, which relied heavily on tariffs as a tool to pressure foreign governments and protect American industries. It also sets a new and important standard for future presidents who might consider using tariffs as a diplomatic or economic weapon, making it clear that such actions will now require greater oversight and justification. For businesses that have been affected by trade wars and ongoing supply chain disruptions, this decision signals a potential shift toward more predictable and stable trade policies, as well as increased transparency in how such decisions are made. The court's decision will force closer collaboration between the White House and Congress on trade issues, encouraging bipartisan solutions and more open debate about the nation's economic future. Ultimately, this ruling marks a return to a more traditional balance of governmental powers, reaffirming the foundational principles set forth by the Founding Fathers and ensuring that no single branch can act without meaningful oversight. At the heart of this landmark case was a fundamental question that has shaped American governance for centuries. Who truly holds the reins of power when it comes to tariffs and trade policy? Is it the president, acting swiftly in the nation's interest, or is it Congress, representing the will of the people through careful debate and legislation? This ongoing struggle between the executive and legislative branches is a defining feature of the American system. Over the years, Congress has sometimes chosen to delegate certain trade authorities to the president, aiming to provide flexibility in a rapidly changing global economy. However, the Supreme Court found that President Trump's actions in this case went beyond the boundaries set by Congress, crossing a constitutional line. The ruling makes it clear: Congress ultimately holds the economic levers of power. Any authority it delegates to the president is not absolute. It can be limited, redefined, or even revoked if necessary to maintain balance. This case stands as a textbook example of the checks and balances built into the Constitution, with the judiciary stepping in to prevent executive overreach and to ensure that no single branch dominates the others. The decision sends a strong message. Sweeping claims of presidential power, whether in trade, environmental regulation, or immigration, will always be subject to close judicial scrutiny and constitutional limits. Ultimately, it's a powerful reminder that the founders' vision of a balanced government, where each branch checks the others, remains not just relevant, but essential to American democracy today. The founders, wary of concentrated power and deeply influenced by their experiences under British rule, deliberately gave Congress, not the president, the authority to tax and regulate commerce. They believed that decisions about the nation's finances and trade should be made by representatives of the people, not by a single executive. This careful division of power was designed to prevent any one branch from becoming too dominant, ensuring a system of checks and balances at the heart of American democracy. Tariffs, in particular, were intended as tools for Congress to manage foreign relations, encourage domestic growth, and protect emerging industries. They were never meant to be wielded unilaterally by the president. Instead, Congress was to debate and decide on these matters, weighing the interests of different regions and industries and considering the broader impact on the nation's economy and international standing. The Supreme Court's majority opinion cited this original intent, emphasizing that economic decisions with sweeping national impact require cooperation and deliberation between the branches of government. The justices argued that bypassing Congress undermines the very foundation of representative government and the constitutional order. The idea of a president single-handedly imposing tariffs without input from Congress would have alarmed the framers of the Constitution. They saw such unilateral action as a threat to liberty and a step toward the kind of executive overreach they had fought to escape. By striking down the tariffs, the court is restoring a foundational principle. Major economic policies demand negotiation, compromise, and the involvement of multiple voices. This decision reaffirms the importance of process and debate in shaping the nation's future. The ruling is less about introducing new ideas and more about returning to the system designed to protect liberty and ensure representative government. It's a reminder that the Constitution's checks and balances are not just historical relics, but living safeguards for democracy. Ultimately, it's a strong nod to the enduring wisdom of America's original architects, whose vision continues to guide the nation through complex challenges, ensuring that power remains accountable to the people. The legal battle presented two starkly different visions of presidential authority. Trump's supporters argued that Congress had delegated broad discretion to the president to impose tariffs for national security, and that courts should defer to executive judgment. Opponents, including businesses and constitutional scholars, countered that using national security as a catch-all excuse undermined Congress's core power and risked giving the president a blank check. The Supreme Court ultimately agreed with the challengers, finding that the administration had exceeded the authority Congress intended to delegate. The decision restores the constitutional balance and limits executive overreach. The tariff decision comes amid a Supreme Court term packed with cases testing the boundaries of government power and individual rights. The justices are also weighing presidential authority over independent agencies, digital privacy, and voting rights. These cases could reshape the independence of federal agencies, define privacy in the digital age, and determine the fairness of elections. The court is applying centuries-old constitutional principles to modern challenges, from surveillance to gerrymandering. Taken together, these cases show a Supreme Court willing to assert its role as the final arbiter of constitutional disputes. This term is shaping up to be one of the most consequential in recent memory. Many expected the Supreme Court's conservative majority to side with the former president on executive power. Instead, the ruling checked presidential authority, defying simple political expectations. The majority opinion, joined by both conservative and liberal justices, was rooted in constitutional principles, not partisanship. For some conservatives, a strict reading of the Constitution led them to side with Congress's explicit power over commerce. This decision signals a willingness to enforce limits on the presidency, even against the preferences of the party that appointed them. It reinforces the court's independence and its commitment to the separation of powers. The Supreme Court's decision has real-world consequences for Americans. Striking down the tariffs could lower prices on everyday goods and ease inflationary pressures. For workers and businesses, it promises greater stability and the chance to rebuild damaged trade relationships. The ruling makes it harder for any president to impose tariffs without clear congressional approval, ensuring more public debate and accountability. It strengthens democracy by reasserting Congress's role in economic policy. Ultimately, the decision reinforces that no one, not even the president, is above the law. It's a victory for the constitutional order and the rule of law.